Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. You know those experiences that kind of leave you reeling like, did I just get off a roller coaster or something? And did I even want to be on that roller coaster to begin with? Well, we're going to tackle those today, those feelings that come with rejection and breakups. And we're going to dive into the Relationship Deep Dive podcast this time. Alex and Lisa had some really good stuff in there about, how to handle these situations with grace and maturity.
Yeah, and they're so common, too, these situations. Almost everyone goes through them at some point, but that doesn't make them any easier.
No, it definitely doesn't. So let's start with rejection. You know, that feeling when you put yourself out there.
It's like
Yeah.
like a door slamming in your face.
Yeah. And the hosts of this podcast, they really stressed that rejection doesn't define you as a person, which is,
Well, yeah, such an important point.
yeah, it's so important to remember that.
Yeah, especially when you're in that moment when you're feeling rejected. It's so easy to just kind of spiral and think, oh, it's me. There's something wrong with me. It's so important to take a step back and realize that's not necessarily the case.
Yeah. And they had this great analogy in the podcast about compatibility,
Oh, yeah,
like a puzzle.
like puzzle pieces.
You can't just force any two pieces together.
Exactly. Some pieces just aren't meant to fit together.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. And that's not a reflection on the pieces themselves.
Yeah, it just means they belong to different puzzles.
Right. And I think that's really comforting because it takes the pressure off,
Yeah, you don't have to be everything to everyone.
Yeah, you just have to find the right fit. And that leads me to something they said that I thought was really interesting. They suggested actually expressing gratitude even after being rejected, which sounds kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah, I can see how that might seem strange at first. Like, why would you thank someone for rejecting you?
Right. But they gave examples like,
Mm.
saying thank you for your honesty or I appreciate you telling me.
Oh, yeah.
So is there something to that? Like, how can gratitude actually be helpful when you're feeling, hurt and rejected?
Well, I think it's about shifting your perspective a little bit. Instead of focusing on the rejection itself, you're choosing to focus on the fact that the other person was upfront with you. They didn't lead you on or string you along.
Right. And they respected you enough, to be honest.
Exactly. And that's something to be grateful for, even if it doesn't feel good in the moment.
Yeah. And it probably helps you to maintain your dignity, too.
Yeah, absolutely. It shows that you're taking the high road.
Yeah.
You're not going to let this rejection define you.
Right. You're choosing to see the good in the situation, even if it's hard to find.
Yeah, and it leaves a much better impression on the other person as well.
Yeah.
They're more likely to remember you in a positive light.
Yeah, that's true. So it's like, even though things didn't work out the way you hoped, you're still choosing to be gracious and understanding.
Exactly. It's a sign of maturity and resilience.
Yeah, I like that. So let's shift gears a little bit now and talk about breakups, which can be even more emotionally charged than just straight up rejection.
Oh, definitely breakups. They bring a whole other level of complexity.
Yeah, because there's a history there. You've shared something with this person and now it's ending.
And there's so many emotions involved. Sadness, anger, confusion.
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to know how to even begin to process all of that.
Yeah, it can feel really overwhelming.
Right. And one of the things Alex and Lisa talked about in the podcast was the importance of accepting the finality of a breakup, which I think is a really crucial point. Why is that so important, do you think?
Well, I think it's because as long as you're holding on to hope that things might change, that the other person might come back, that you can somehow fix things,
Yeah.
you're not allowing yourself to truly grieve and move on.
Like you're stuck in this limbo.
Exactly. You're clinging to something that's no longer there, and that prevents you from starting the healing process.
Right. Because if you're still holding on to that hope, then you're not really dealing with the reality of the situation.
Yeah, and that can prolong the pain and make it even harder to eventually move on.
So accepting the breakup is like acknowledging the truth of what is.
Yeah, it's like saying, okay, this is over, and I need to start processing that.
Right. And that's not easy.
No, it's definitely not easy, but it's a necessary step.
Yeah. And it's like that saying, sometimes you have to let go of what's good to make room for what's great.
I love that.
So even though it's painful, letting go allows you to open yourself up to new possibilities.
Yeah, and sometimes those possibilities are even better than what you were holding on to before.
Yeah, so accepting the breakup is like closing one chapter so you can start writing a new one.
Exactly. And who knows what exciting adventures that new chapter might hold.
Exactly. So we've talked about the importance of acceptance, but even when you accept the breakup, it still hurts.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And Alex and Lisa talked about this too. They emphasize the importance of allowing yourself to grieve.
Yeah, that's so important. People often try to push their feelings down or pretend they're not there, but that's not healthy.
Yeah, and it doesn't really work.
No, it just makes things worse in the long run. Those feelings are going to come out one way or another.
Right, so it's better to deal with them head on.
Yeah, give yourself permission to feel the sadness, the anger, the hurt, whatever it is you're feeling.
Yeah, and they talked about how bottling up emotions can actually be counterproductive.
Oh, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. It's
Yeah.
going to pop up somewhere else.
Yeah, and probably with more force.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's better to let those emotions flow, process them, and then let them go.
So what are some healthy ways to allow yourself to grieve?
Well, it's different for everyone. Some people find it helpful to talk to a therapist or a trusted friend or family member.
Right.
Others find solace in writing, journaling, expressing themselves through art or music.
Yeah, this can be really therapeutic.
Yeah. And for some people, physical activity can be a great outlet, like going for a run or hitting the gym.
It's about finding what works for you.
Exactly. There's no right or wrong way to grieve. The important thing is to allow yourself to feel those emotions and process them in a healthy way.
And that leads perfectly into what Alex and Lisa call self-care,
Oh, yeah.
which is so crucial after a breakup.
Yeah, it's like giving yourself a big hug and saying, hey, I'm here for you.
Yeah, it's about being kind and compassionate with yourself.
Exactly. And reminding yourself that you're worthy of love and care, even if the relationship didn't work out.
And they really stress the importance of engaging in activities that bring you joy. You know, things that make you feel alive again.
Yeah, that's so important when you're going through a breakup. It's easy to get lost in the sadness and forget about all the things that make you happy.
Right, so it's about intentionally seeking out those things.
Exactly. Make time for the activities you love. Spend time with people who make you feel good. Do things that nourish your soul.
Yeah, and it's not about being selfish.
No, it's about taking care of yourself so you can heal and move forward.
Right, because you can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. You have to fill yourself up first before you can give to others.
And that includes giving to yourself.
Yeah. Self-love is so important, especially during difficult times.
Yeah, it's like laying the foundation for a strong and healthy future.
Exactly. And that future can be filled with amazing things.
I love that perspective.
Okay.
So we've covered a lot of ground here already, but we're just getting started.
It's like rediscovering those little sparks of joy that might have gotten a little dimmed during the breakup.
Yeah, exactly. And those sparks can lead to bigger flames. You know, they can reignite your passion for life.
Yeah, and sometimes those passions lead you to new and unexpected places, new hobbies, new friendships, new adventures.
Right. It's like a whole new world opens up to you.
Yeah, and sometimes you discover things about yourself that you never even knew were there.
And that's so exciting.
Yeah, it's like a whole new chapter in your life is beginning.
Speaking of new chapters, let's talk about the dreaded social media trap.
Oh, yeah, that can be a dangerous one.
Yeah, it's so tempting to check up on your ex, you know, see what they're up to, who they're with.
Yeah, but it's like picking at a scab.
Yeah.
It just prevents the wound from healing properly.
Yeah, keeps you stuck in the past.
Exactly. And it can trigger all sorts of negative emotions like jealousy and insecurity.
Right. And even if things look perfect on social media, you never really know what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, people tend to present a very curated version of themselves online.
So it's not a realistic representation of their life?
No. And comparing yourself to that can be really damaging.
So what's the solution?
Well, the best thing you can do is limit your social media exposure, especially when it comes to your ex.
So like unfollow them, mute them.
Yeah, exactly. Or even take a break from social media altogether for a while.
It's like giving yourself an emotional cleanse.
Yeah, create a space where you can focus on your own healing without those distractions.
And that leads us to the importance of self-reflection, which Alex and Lisa also talked about in the podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's so crucial.
Yeah, it's about looking back on the relationship and trying to learn from it.
Yeah, and it's not about dwelling on the past or blaming yourself or the other person.
Right. It's about understanding what happened.
Yeah, and identifying patterns that you might want to break in future relationships.
It's like turning the rearview mirror into a learning tool.
Yeah, exactly. And that can help you make healthier choices moving forward.
So what are some good questions to ask yourself during this self-reflection process?
Well, you could start by asking yourself, what were the strengths of the relationship?
Yeah, what worked well?
And then what were the challenges, what didn't work so well?
And what did you learn about yourself during the course of the relationship?
Yeah, what did you discover about your needs, your values, your boundaries?
And what are your non-negotiables in a future relationship?
Yeah. What are the things that you absolutely will not compromise on?
And what patterns do you want to break?
Yeah, are there any unhealthy patterns that you've noticed in your past relationships that you want to avoid repeating?
So it's about taking ownership of your part in the relationship.
Yeah, and acknowledging that you have the power to create a better future for yourself.
And that's so empowering.
Yeah, that's like saying, okay, this is what I've learned, and now I'm going to use that knowledge to create a more fulfilling and joyful life.
Yeah, and that includes your relationships.
Absolutely. You deserve to be in a relationship that brings you happiness and supports your growth.
And that's something to strive for.
Yeah, it's worth the effort.
So we've talked about rejection breakups, self-care, social media self-reflection.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
And I think we've gotten some really valuable insights from the Relationship Dip Dive podcast.
Yeah, Alex and Lisa have some great advice.
So let's recap what we've learned so far, and then we'll wrap things up.
Sounds good. You know, it's interesting when you think about it. These things like rejection and breakups, they can be so painful.
Mm.
But they also have this potential for growth.
It's like they force you to look inward.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
They challenge you to examine your beliefs, your patterns, your priorities.
And maybe to make some changes.
Yeah, and those changes can lead to a more authentic and fulfilling life.
It's like those times when you think something is a setback, but it turns out to be a blessing in disguise.
I like that. Yeah, it's like the universe is nudging you in a different direction, even if it doesn't feel very gentle at the time.
Yeah, and maybe that new direction is even better than the one you were on before.
Exactly. You never know what amazing things might be waiting for you just around the corner.
So instead of viewing rejection and breakups as failures,
Yeah.
maybe we can see them as opportunities for growth and transformation.
Yeah, it's like a phoenix rising from the ashes.
Yeah.
You know, stronger and more beautiful than before.
That's such a powerful image. I love that.
Yeah, and it's true. You know, you have the resilience within you to overcome these challenges and come out even stronger on the other side.
And that applies to all of us.
Absolutely. Everyone has the capacity for growth and healing.
So no matter what you're going through right now,
Yeah.
just remember that you're not alone and you have the power to create a brighter future for yourself.
And that future can be filled with love and joy and all the things that make life worth living.
I love that message. That's so inspiring.
Yeah, it's all about perspective.
Yeah.
You know, choosing to see the good even when things are tough.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. You've given us so much to think about.
It was my pleasure.
Yeah.
I always enjoy these conversations.
Yeah, me too. And to our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in. And remember, you are worthy of love and happiness no matter what.
Absolutely. And never give up on yourself.
Until next time.